a business, grow an existing one, or manage your personal finances, your set. Don't wait. Join Mukonke Mukonkela from Inside Partners Africa every Tuesdays at 0720 hours on the Dalama Insights Business Show, a program that gives you the best and most practical, actionable insights.
That is good morning and welcome to another edition of the Ndalama Insights radio show. I'm Leslie, and of course, with me in the studio is Mokonke Mukonkela, the CEO of Inside Partners Africa. Good morning, Mokonke, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Leslie. How's the week so far?
So far, so good. How's your week going?
So far, so good as well.
It's good when people can talk like this in this new year.
It shows that there are great things.
There are great things coming.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, today we're talking about what your net worth should be at your age, which I think is actually quite important. Your net worth should be at your age. Huh?
Yeah.
Quite a crucial topic too. Now, Konki, could you provide some perspective, on the age by which individuals should ideally aim to create a net worth?
Thank you, Leslie. And good morning, listeners. I rarely get to say good morning to my listeners these days. So good morning, everybody listening and watching on LinkedIn. This is a very important topic, Leslie, and I brought it up because I've been seeing our colleagues discussing this topic, especially the Americans. They like to look at this topic, and they actually have statistics that they release every year that show them how much people are getting in a certain bracket. I wish we could have this information even here in Zambia. However, we're going to get this ball rolling, Leslie, you and I, so that by next year, hopefully, the Central Statistics Office can be giving us this information as well in terms of how our colleagues are faring, not so that we can compare each other, but so that we can just get motivated and work harder and catch up to our colleagues in certain age brackets. So talking about net worth per age is simply a way of us trying to, aim to get a better revenue that secures our future at each particular stage as we move on. And there's no number that is really fixed that you should be aiming for. As I said, personal finance management is really a personal thing. However, all this is just to give you some motivation, also to indicate to you what others possibly make, not just in Zambia, but also in other countries as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we explore this, you provide some perspective, like at what age, and what kind of net worth should you have, going with your age?
So each age is different, Leslie. So like in the 20s, and something I want to discuss later on this year is mistakes I made in my 20s, and these are real mistakes as I was getting started in terms of my career. So at 20, we are going to go through each of these, by the way. So like at 20 years old, you're just graduating from your college or university. What kind of net worth should you be aiming for at 20 years old? Okay. And then when you start growing older, you're 30, you're 40, what kind of net worth should you be aiming for? Because your life starts changing. Around 30, you're probably settling down, getting married, having children. Around 40, you're probably settled, you've got young kids that need to be taken care of as well. Around 50, your kids probably have grown up and leaving your house or your home that leaves you with a lot more income. Hopefully by 60, you are aiming to retire. So how do you think about your financial management as you progress through these ages? It is very important to think about because it also determines what kind of investments this morning is really hard. What kind of investments you actually make as you progress through the ages. So this is very important to consider, Leslie.
Now, what elements contribute though to a healthy net worth, and why is it significant in one's financial journey?
Quite a number. Last week we looked at them. So net worth is simply the difference between your assets, what you've acquired so far in terms of your fixed assets, and minus your liabilities. I'm pretty sure you've heard that a car is not an asset. a lot of financial gurus say that a car is not an asset, but as an accountant, we normally put it as an asset. So
depreciating asset.
depreciating asset. So Your net worth simply is acquisitions in terms of assets. And you could look at your investments in the government bonds, in the stock market, in even the vehicle. For the meanwhile, let's just put it there as well, even though it's depreciating, less all your liabilities. Now, at what amount, what net worth should you be aiming for at each stage? So even for the young people that are listening to me, you are so fortunate. Please listen carefully. Don't say no, because me when I was younger, I mean, you would be discussing with colleagues. Somebody would say, "I've got a plot," and then everybody would say, "But you're too young to get a plot." And at that moment, it never clicked that no, you're not too young to get a plot at 20. That's the right time for you to be thinking about these things. So I'm hoping that even the young people that are listening to this program can actually start, looking at their finances critically and taking it seriously. If you're in a group of friends and somebody is saying you're too young to buy that house, that is very wrong financial advice. And as I've said, I'm going to have a specific discussion one day where I'm going to talk about some mistakes I made in my 20s, and I wished somebody actually told me, Semukonki, no, leave that money at Statuna. Don't, after you leave your employment at KCM, don't go to it, because that's what I did with my my retirement savings.
Oh boy. Now, let's kick off with our listeners in their
Yeah.
20s, Mkonke. What's the ideal net worth goal at this juncture, and why is it essential for this age group?
So when you're in your 20s, in fact, whatever age you are at, you should always aim for a positive net worth. Remember, net worth is the difference between your assets and your liabilities. So your net worth should always be positive. If your net worth is negative, it means you're owing people money. We don't want you to be in that situation. It's very stressful. So always aim for a positive net worth. And in your 20s, we are starting with very minimal. If you're not ambitious, that is, we've got very young people that are actually extremely ambitious nowadays. But if you're moderately ambitious, you could aim for just your annual income. It could be what you're aiming for as your net worth, meaning that or even just your monthly income. Let me give you a specific figure. So you could aim for, let's say, my monthly income. I can have a net worth of, if I get paid 5,000 per month, I should be aiming, that's a 20-year-old, by the way. I should be aiming for a net worth of at least, I said 5,000, I should be aiming for a net worth of at least 5,000 kwacha, meaning that I should have some investments that are adding up to at least 5,000 kwacha. Okay? At the end of the year. That is my net worth at the end of the year. And this net worth should be growing. So as a 20-year-old, a minimum amount could be, your target could be the salary that you get per month, could be what you're aiming for to save as your net worth, or to keep in an asset as your net worth. So what kind of assets could you have as a 20-year-old? I mean, we've been talking about government bonds. For me, or even fixed deposits, accounts, money markets. These are things that you can get started with slowly. Government bonds you can buy at 1,000 kwacha. Okay, and nowadays, even with these better interest rates, it gives you a better saving option. So if you can keep a 5,000 in a a 2-year government bond, that is a good start, because even though it's a small amount, you're also getting to learn how to invest as you grow older, and you're definitely better than your colleagues who are not doing anything or just partying weekend after weekend, and just doing all sorts of nice entertaining things that young people get to do, but you're actually keeping money aside.
So being able to balance the two.
Yes.
Now, transitioning into the 30s, Mkonge, what benchmarks should our listeners set for their net worth, and how does this period sort of shape their financial trajectory?
So the 30s is very interesting, and I'm really going to relate to you my experiences in my 30s. 30s is where a lot of changes normally happen. You're thinking about getting married or marrying for the guys. So you're thinking about, that nice wedding that you want to have. You need to have a house. Guys, if you're getting married, you don't marry somebody and then, take them to your mom's place. So 30s is very pivotal because a lot of decisions are made during this period. And therefore, what kind of income should you be aiming for, even as you try to balance these obligations that you're now going to be, taking on? And so it's a difficult time, but if you started earlier in your 20s thinking about your financial planning, it's definitely going to be easier for you. But at 30 years, we are aiming for at least to double your annual income. So always aim to have a net worth of at least double your annual income at 30 years old, because if you're able to save at least double your annual income, it indicates your financial discipline in terms of savings, and it also helps you to have a better chance of carrying on these obligations of starting a family, getting married better without financial stress. So what does this entail? It entails that you need to save money. All this is financial discipline, guys. It's not easy, because at 30 years, you're still young, you're still having fun, but also trying to, balance your life by getting married, but by pursuing maybe even further education. Some people take on master's courses at this point. And so financial discipline, even as you are taking on these obligations, you're also saving so that you can have a comfortable and less stressful financial life.
Okay.
Mm.
And finally, the big 40.
Mhm.
What's the net worth target, and why is this period significant in the financial journey? And I think most of your listeners, this is somewhere where they
Yeah, I am here. Where are you? In your 30s?
No, we are all in the same place.
I am here. So
Yeah.
40s, what do we do here? Goodness me. And if you're lagging behind, don't be disheartened. I'm throwing out all these figures just to get us thinking, to say at each age we need to be thinking about how we save our money. At 40, what do we do? At this period, hopefully you would have stabilized your career. You would have, for those that are married, you've got a stable marriage and that is supportive, I hope, and you and your spouse have got the same financial mind framework or frame of reference, I hope, in terms of finances. But at 40 years, you need to really be clear with all your goals. You are well established in terms of your education. You've got a stable career. You've got income that is coming in regularly. Aim for at least 3 times your annual income at 40 years. Aim for at least 3 times your annual income. And at this time, prioritize your retirement. Yes, 50 could be, you could say mid-age, but even 40 is mid-age, because if you look at our life expectancy, the most maybe is 80. So if at 40, you've probably lived half of your life. So at this period, you really need to start planning for your retirement. Children are not a retirement plan. Yeah. So that's what you need to do at
Okay.
40.
And when we talk about 4 to 5 times your annual income,
Mm.
40s, I know a lot of people will think I'm so behind, because when you think of your annual income, maybe you make 70 or 80,000 a year,
Mhm.
on average. So you're looking at that's what, 400,000, 350,000.
Yes.
It looks like you're very behind. But when you do think about it, if you've got a plot and you've got a roof level house,
Yes.
you're pretty much there, isn't it?
Yes. If you've got a plot, if you've got investments, maybe in some rental properties, if you really, all this requires some good thinking. So rental income, some investments in government bonds, in stocks, um, yeah, even a business. If you do a side, other than just being full-time employed, you could also be doing a business, a part-time business that is also giving you some revenue. That is helping you to build your net worth.
Mhm.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, this is just so you don't feel very behind, because I know some people, when they hear these figures, you start feeling like you're very behind. No,
Yeah.
no, you're not necessarily very behind,
Yes.
but you could do better. I mean, if you can think you're behind, then maybe there's more out there for you.
Yes.
Now approaching the half century mark, Mkonke,
Mm.
what net worth milestone should individuals aim for, and how does it pave way for secure retirement? Because at this age, you're now thinking about retirement.
Yeah. The 50 years, you really need to, if you are lagging behind at this age, 50 years, you really need to put in all you can to ensure you've got not just a positive net worth, but also aiming for 5 times. Now, remember last week, Leslie, you were saying the earlier you start, the better, and you gave an example of that football. This is so true, because imagine by 50, if you haven't saved anything, can you imagine how hard it will be for you to
To start.
catch up?
Yeah, catching up is quite a battle. If you don't do your
Why?
homework
Oh
along the
my
way.
God. So 50, we are aiming for at least 5 or 6 times your annual income, right?
Mhm.
Wow, that requires a bit of work if you're lagging behind. But again, it's just financial discipline, knowing about it and starting to do the right thing. Sometimes we don't get to do this because there's no information out there to help us. We might have money, but we don't know where to keep it so that it can earn us, a return, and we can live off this money even when we stop working. We don't have that information, and I'm hoping that through this platform we can share insights and start living better financial lives. So even at 50, you can turn your ship around. Don't be discouraged.
Definitely, and I'm sure we'll talk a bit about how you can catch up if you feel like you're behind.
Yes.
Now stepping into the golden years, Mukonke,
Mhm.
what's the net worth goal, and how does it contribute to a fulfilling retirement?
So 60, we are nearing retirement. And by the way, when you are 50, you should be looking at your retirement funds. So ensuring that your NAPSA contributions have been regular. Go to your employers. Sometimes we think our employers are doing the right thing and are submitting our NAPSA, monthly to NAPSA in terms of our retirement. But some employers don't, Leslie. So go check your account. You can actually check your account with NAPSA. During your 50s, ensure that you are checking your contributions regularly. Is my employer actually taking money to NAPSA? Because this becomes really important in your 60s as you are nearing retirement. This is when you look back at your investments, check whether you invested well. You can actually retire if for those that want to retire at 60 or 65. This is when you reflect back and check whether you saved enough money to actually step down and go and enjoy, a peaceful life at the farm, or travel the world with whoever, and just enjoy yourself. So at 60 years, for me, I think we are starting to slow down. You don't have as much energy, but you could also be aiming for at least 6 times your income, because at 60 you don't have so many obligations as you had when you were younger. Your children have left your house. Hopefully they're not still depending on you. uh, we've got elderly parents that still take care of their children, and so I hope we start, yeah, children start learning to be independent, so that their parents at 60 can establish a strong, base on which to retire and won't be obligated to work because their children still depend on them. Yeah.
Now, for those who find themselves behind these benchmarks, Mukonke,
Hmm.
it can be depressing when you're listening to these things and you're saying, no, I'm completely behind. But what actions can they take to catch up and build a strong financial foundation? Because I don't think it's ever too late, right?
Yeah, no, it's never too late, and you should not feel discouraged. Many of us are actually lagging behind. What's important is their awareness. Now that you start taking the right steps. If you love shopping like I do, it's time to start thinking carefully before you buy that dress, ladies, or that handbag. You say, how will this affect me in my 50s or 60s? Because when you get to your 50s or 60s, it will require you to work double. So some things you could consider, or strategies you could implement if you're lagging behind. There are 5 things you could look at. The first one is increasing your savings. So if you're lagging behind, as we've discussed right now in terms of your targets, if you're lagging behind in terms of those targets, consider increasing your savings. So rather than saving 10% of your income, you could consider increasing it to 20%. That requires financial discipline. And there's feedback from Godfrey and Dominic. Let me just say what they're saying. So Godfrey is saying, I'm approaching 40 and my monthly income is mega. It's very small. Little money is failing to accumulate into stable income. I know, right? So we'll talk about this very soon. Thank you for this topic. It is my hope that it gives me motivation and not pressure. So for those of us that are, in our 40s, our salary is not enough. Let's listen to these strategies. Let's go to the next one. In fact, let me start with career advancement. For many of us that are working, we hope that our employers will be good enough to promote us so that our incomes can increase, right, Leslie? But actually, research shows that if you stay with one employer, the new people that are coming to join you actually stand a better chance of getting a higher salary than you. Do you know that? With the same job that you're doing. If you don't know, now you know. Meaning that you should not be afraid to venture out and actually seek better, employers that are able to pay you what you're worth, especially if you know your value, Leslie. So don't be stuck in one employment thinking that one day they will promote me and then they don't. Consider looking at better opportunities. If your employers do not value you, also have that discussion with your employers. Once in a while, go to your employers and tell them why it is necessary for them to increase your salary. If they don't listen to you, you've got an option. So I'm throwing this out to you guys. Those of you that are employed and saying my salary is mega, what do I do? look at other options. First of all, go to your employers and ask for an increment. Okay, explain the value you've been adding to their company. So even as you're working, document what value you're adding to your employers and have that discussion. Don't be afraid. If your employers do not want to give you an increment, consider venturing out, because new hires always get an increment. So even you, when you join a company and a new company, you obviously want a higher salary than you're currently getting. So consider that. That's another strategy that I'm sharing with you. So employers, please, yes, I'm telling your employees to quit if they can. The other one you could do is debt reduction. A lot of us are really dependent on credit, especially if your salary is very little. You want to, go to the Shylocks and get, loans. So consider reducing your debt as much as possible. Be self-reliant, be content. Grow some vegetables if you can, so that you can reduce on your household expenses. There's quite a lot, but we'll continue this discussion, Leslie, as we go. We've run out of time.
Definitely, there's so much to talk about. But Mukonki, nonetheless, thank you very much for coming through this morning. And this looks like a very important topic we have to continue next week, hopefully, so we can actually finish it properly, because we also need to look at challenges as well. With these, catching up. Because I think catching up is almost a topic on its own.
Yes.
Like there's just so much you can talk about when you're talking about catching up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's a topic on its own. So we definitely will see if we can definitely discuss that as well as
probably next week, right? Let's look
Yeah.
at catching up next week. So for those of us that are lagging behind, how do we catch up?
Yeah.
So we'll look at this next week.
Yeah, because I really like, usually when I'm talking to people, you get this feeling that it's very easy to get, depressed and start thinking that, things are not happening when you actually are on the right trajectory. Maybe you just need a push up, in the right direction a little bit, to finally actualize what you are doing. But it's stuff we'll talk about next week though. But Konke, thank you very much for coming through this morning.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you for the feedback for the guys online.
You have been listening to Ndalama Insights Business Show.